One of the reasons why I really wanted to do the podcast is because the stigma around mental health. Yeah. We see that a lot, even like with my fiance going to therapy, coming from his background of a Hispanic household, only male child. Going to therapy was like difficult for him to start, didn't want to, didn't really believe in it.
What does it take to break through the stigma? At Ventana, it starts with creating a new kind of safety. Join our clinicians and staff for a candid and compassionate conversation about men's mental health on Beyond the Window.
Welcome to Ventana's Beyond the Window podcast. My name is Bryce Colvard. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and the clinical director of our men's inpatient mental health program. And I'm here with two of our phenomenal staff and my colleague, who I will let introduce themselves.
All right. Hello. My name is Carla Fernandez. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, also clinical director with Ventana treatment programs, also with adult male population inpatient residential homes.
I'm Allison Silipigni. I've been with Ventana for 3.5 years now. I float and work all the houses, but predominantly work at La Granada, one of our men's houses, and I am a staff trainer here.
Yes. Yeah. You train all of our new staff on all of our policies and protocols and procedures for when they come into new homes.
Yes.
And we're super grateful for your role.
Thank you.
That as well.
Hi, I'm staff here at La Ventana. I'm a mental health technician, but I'm currently going to school to get my license in marriage and family therapy. I'm in my practical year now. And part of why I'm here is, maybe you guessed it, I'm a man. So hopefully I can speak to men's experiences.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think when we were originally coming up with this idea, and one thing that really spoke to you all as staff, we've never had staff on the podcast before. So this is kind of breaking ground in that sense. And one thing, Allison, I've been working with you for a long time. One thing that you really wanted to bring to light was your experiences in working in men's mental health. Obviously, Josh, you're a man working in mental health in what's traditionally kind of a female-dominated world. So why don't both of you kind of just speak to your experiences, not just like with La Ventana, but just kind of in the field of mental health, in the positions that you guys have had, and obviously why you continue to have upward momentum, right? Like you in training and taking that on, you going to school. So what's been your experiences so far with this?
Well, one of the reasons why I really wanted to do the podcast is because the stigma around mental health. Yeah. We see that a lot, even like with my fiance going to therapy, coming from his background of a Hispanic household, only male child. Going to therapy was like difficult for him to start, didn't want to, didn't really believe in it. And now, like, he's just come so far in his journey with therapy, sticking with the same therapist, doing the work. So you could really see, like, the transition of how he handles situations and how he feels about things. And then, working in mental health, being at La Granada. When I train new staff, especially women, after a day, they're like, oh, this is so much better than I expected. This, I thought it was going to be more chaotic, violent, aggressive, too much going on. And they're like, this is really chill. And a lot of times they're like, well, I don't want to go to another house. Like, I want to stay here. Yeah. So we can definitely see the shifts in perspective, which I enjoy seeing their journeys through that.
Absolutely.
My own experience in mental health, I work at the Women's House. There's a lot of non-binary folks there as well. But my experience has been a lot of the times when we get new clients, I'll read through like the little breakdown of like why they're here and some of their triggers. And oftentimes like some of their triggers can be men. They can have men around, but you can see it too when they come in. They're a little hesitant when you first meet them, or at least when I first meet them. And I think one of the nice things that's been my experience in working in that house is getting to see that change as, I become like just a constant fixture. I'm there 40 hours a week most weeks. So they see me a lot, and they get to like kind of just be around somebody who's just a safe person to be around. And it kind of, I hopefully kind of gives them a chance to be like, okay, you know what, like there are some trustworthy men. And, you know, maybe out in the world, like, you know, there's not going to be like 100 Joshes running around, and those are the one type of men.
Don't we wish?
Yeah. Maybe that's not going to be the case, but at least, like, you know, they might be willing to give something a chance with, like, in a relationship with a man. So that's been my experience, and it's been really great, like, getting to kind of see that.
I think what you guys are really speaking to is a lot of the reparative work that goes into all of the treatment that we provide, whether it be like male with a female milieu or females with a male milieu. It's just speaking to how we are breaking like stereotypes. I think predominantly there's stereotypes with all genders, right? But I think predominantly while we're speaking of the male gender, there's a lot of stereotypes that come with going to treatment, receiving treatment, asking for help and things of that nature. And so I think you all and the way you show up and the way you train people to receive the clients on a basic human level is such reparative work, both for males and females alike. I think with males too, just even being able to sit with their difficulties in such a safe space and training people from like the very first day and all the way through to just receive them. I think that makes them more comfortable and gives them more of an ability to be vulnerable within these spaces and that reparative work.
I think Carla and I, we've been working together for a long time, and one thing that we're really, really passionate about is this like idea of cultivating new experiences, right? The corrective experience is like kind of what we call it. So whether it's like clients with you, Josh, like getting this corrective experience of I've never had safety in the presence of a man before because of my family trauma background history. I've never had open, vulnerable conversations with women from a male perspective where I haven't felt emasculated, put down, called weak, called, you know, insufficient in whatever way. And so I know in our programs from the top down, from the bottom up, we talk a lot about just cultivating human safety and cultivating having new conversations and new experiences in a way that really breaks stigma, promotes vulnerability, and just recognizing that, you know, people who come to treatment choose to be here. Right? La Ventana is not a non-voluntary facility. We are 100% a voluntary program. And so when somebody picks up the phone and says, I'm in the trenches, right? I'm in the lowest of the low of my life. I'm not doing well. What a feat that person already took on. What a feat that you know, man who's in their 60s, who grew up with all of these, you know, social norms, for them to even pick up the phone, let alone complete an intake assessment, let alone walk through the front door, let alone complete 30, 45 days of treatment, you know, is different than, you know, the unsafe people in the world that people might be having former traumatic experiences with. Right. And I know you see those people like from the beginning, like you do the admits.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say. That's the reward, right? Like there's one person in particular that I always like think about and go back to because I picked him up, I did his intake, and there was no smile. Sometimes they come in and they're happy to be here, but there was no smile. It was anxiety. His shoulders were slumped over. He was very quiet. And then as he continued, and he was an older gentleman, and as he continued through treatment, you saw his shoulders go back. He was smiling as he walked. He was kind to his peers. Thank you for helping me with this. So kind of stuff. He was smiling, and just seeing the trajectory of like an older male seeking help, doing the work, graduating program, healed a little bit in me too.
Yeah.
Because an older gentleman is getting better for his family, and that's not something I've personally experienced within my own family dynamic. So seeing that there are people out there that will get help, do the program, like be kind to their peers, be kind to staff, take on the work. What more can you give me? I want to talk to my clinician. I want to do the work, therapy, homework, like the whole thing. And just seeing the difference in how they even carry themselves was like just so rewarding. So rewarding.
I love how you talk about like the duality of like, you know, so often in treatment it's like they come to learn from us. I think we can all speak to the fact that like we learn from them. There's not a day that goes by, you know, that I don't learn something from our clients that I don't look at something different. I don't look at a situation from a different perspective. Carla, I know, like, you're the same, right? We're constantly talking about, like,
lifelong learners,
right?
Yeah.
And so, I think it's this beautiful reciprocity that happens within a very unique space like this, and I think that's such a good message to give, to people of it's a give and a take, right? It's when you are looking at people who are seeking help and support, what are you taking away from? There are people in the world, regardless of how chaotic it is, that through that will show up. They'll pick up the phone. They'll go, I need help. And I think that's what drives us to continue to show up.
For sure.
I think also you're mentioning, like, recalling a client who was sad and quiet and, just kind of a little bit more to himself. I think on the other side of the spectrum, both where we as staff learn, but also where we really support clients in learning about themselves, is the client that is a little bit more angry, is a little bit more aggressive, right? And not aggressive in terms of, like, physically, but just, like, their whole demeanor. Like, I can think of a client that I'm like, you've been through some stuff. There's a reason you are this way. Like, you didn't just wake up and decide, I hate the world. No one talk to me. I'm not going to be approachable. I'm going to, respond in anger or irritation. That's not just, like, how people are generally, right? So it's like seeing a person like that also learn about themselves and not have to default to that anger, and in his words, be a man, or act like a man, or not be soft, or some other choice words he provided. It's really cool. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It's, like, so awesome to see them, like, begin to laugh and, like, begin to cry and begin to talk about, like, them as children and as victims and people that were hurt. And then it's like this whole other side comes out, and that they're in there, right? And so for them, it's amazing to bring them to this safe space and have that be something that feels like it's an option for them, or maybe they don't feel like they can express themselves in this manner in any other type of environment. But also, speaking about staff, it's really awesome to watch them be like, oh, like, also understand it. Like, there was a separate client, separate incidents. This client hadn't done anything. There was, like, nothing that he did. Yeah. He was just very to himself, very quiet. He had, like, a mean mugging face. He had gone through, like, a lot of things, right? But if you talked to him, answered. If you engaged him, there, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you, no, whatever, right? But he just had a very, like, tough exterior. And as we provide psychoeducation to staff, but also clients alike, they learn about themselves, they learn about the client, and then you're like, oh, it's actually, like, not that bad. He's not going to do this, that, or the other. He wasn't gonna, right? But there's just, like, this stereotype that people beeline to, and that can be really harmful. I think, obviously, there definitely are opportunities for unfortunate things to happen across all genders, but that doesn't mean that that's, like, what it is all the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What are you about on anger?
On anger, well,
I love talking about anger.
Me too. It's my favorite. I'm like, let's see it.
Yeah.
Bring it.
Well, to your point about how, like, they just didn't wake up that way. They didn't just wake up and that's who they are. Yeah. I think of it in, like, kind of the paradigm of, like, adaptive versus maladaptive, where that behavior originally was probably a very protective thing for them. And now, maybe they're out of that situation. Maybe they're still in that situation. And that behavior is no longer adaptive. It's actually maladaptive because of these new relationships. They're acting the same way because it's protected them in the past, but now it's actually harming those relationships, and it's not a protective factor anymore. So that's what I think about when I hear stuff like that. Yeah. And anger is just one way to do that, like, especially for a man, like, that's one of the only emotions that you're allowed to have a lot of the time, because it's an emotion that's also kind of associated with being tough. Yeah,
strong.
It's strong, right? And, like,
a leader.
I'm not gonna let you walk all over me, because that's not. See, I'm not allowed to, like. Yeah. I'm not allowed to even feel like I'm vulnerable for a moment. So anger is, like, kind of a way to be like, I'm not vulnerable, actually. I'm pushing against you, and I'm like, I'm making you back down, actually. So that's kind of where I see that.
But it's also, even just yesterday, we have a group called gosh, why am I blinking? Recovery and resilience, where we talk a whole lot about men's upbringing and like the man box and like man rules and things like that. And it's very much, obviously I am a woman. And so it's very much something that I kind of like have them lead in the sense of like, teach me, like, what was it like growing up? I provide the questions, I provide the prompts, I provide the processing and the support. However, they're teaching me a lot about what they've learned, right? And so all across, I've been running this group for a little bit now, all across all of their messaging around being a man surrounds a lack of emotion. I think maybe one or two so far have been like, well, you know, my mom was okay with me doing that, but my dad was like, don't cry, or like, buck up, or what are you doing? And so then that became really confusing, right? But it wasn't like, yeah, you're super safe to talk about these things, and of course you're sad, and of course you're disappointed, and of course you feel sensitive. It was like, get over it. What are you doing? You know? And so I think it starts from such a young age, and then depending on adverse experiences, culture, and everything under the sun that you're going to experience in your lifetime, that will mold different reactions and different responses and maladaptive coping skills from you. So I think a big part of my work, I think with my team as I lead the home, is also like a lot of empathy building, a lot of breaking stereotypes, but like, let's build some empathy. They're not just these like cold human beings that don't want to talk about it. Like, they were taught not to talk about these things. So it's like, we're needing to meet them where they are and understand where they're coming from, or at least try our very hardest to.
Yeah. I think there's this piece of like the empathy and the ability to just like separate, right? I think what we teach, I know you teach, when it comes to like training staff is to like have your own boundaries, right? Is to not have this, you know, super personalization, right? Again, it's not about you. And I think supporting somebody in that journey, whether it's as like therapists from like Carla and I's perspective, as support staff from your perspective, it's about being that neutral party. It's about, I don't have this history with you. I'm not your mom. I'm not your brother. I'm not your dad. I'm not your ex, right? And reassociating those experiences. And you guys do that boots on the ground, right? You're there day in, day out, 40 hours a week, all hours of the night, right? Whatever it is. Yeah. And I think you both get like that immediate association, right? And so how do you both kind of interpret that? How do you provide support? What's your pieces of empathy and like kind of what I call like the reminders of why, right? Like why I continue to show up. Mental health, residential is hard work.
It's so hard.
There's not a lot of like places like this, right? This level of care, you know, just comes with a lot of personal and professional buy-in, right? Of just, you know, putting your whole self in there. And so how do you like remind yourself of your why, and how do you show up in that neutral, safe, empathetic way?
I think for me, like, I didn't even know this job existed until I had it.
We hear that a lot.
I lived in the Central Valley. I was taking a break from work and couldn't find a job out there. I had a friend that lived out here and was like, okay, I'm just going to start throwing stuff out. Yeah. And then I got hired and we moved, and it was all within like a couple weeks of each other. And the learning curve was massive. I came in before we had housing managers, before there was a lot of this structure and like the groups in the evening. We didn't even have groups in the evening. So like I was here for that and the transition. And I think for me personally, like I teach a lot on boundaries. Like I think especially with men, with the anger of, okay, like, why don't you come, let's take a breath. Like, why don't you come talk to me when you're ready? The boundaries are so important because typically they don't have that. So there's a lot of pushback of why? And then it's like, okay, we'll talk to Bryce.
Talk to Bryce and
Talk
Carla.
to Bryce and Carla.
Totally.
I'm just
support,
here,
right?
right.
Totally.
I'm here to like uphold. I'm here to keep everyone safe, and so I teach a lot on boundaries, because also sometimes they don't understand that they're asking either personal questions, inappropriate questions, and so that can lead down a path of too much comfortability, could be unsafe. But for me, coming back and taking care of myself is, hey, Bryce, I feel like I'm hitting a wall right now.
Totally. Like seeking support.
Seeking support. This client is really difficult, and I feel like a punching bag right now.
Yeah.
I'm starting to struggle separating myself. I come in, it's a new day. I make sure that I don't hold yesterday to today, or even hour by hour. Okay, they apologize, we're moving on. It was a bad morning. Like, I try very hard not to hold, but working in mental health, you do get tired. Yeah. You do get compassion fatigue. And so by communicating that, I know I have the support. I can take a break. Yeah. I can move to something different, let someone else take over for a little bit, take care of myself at home, because it does start to like impact, especially when you have a difficult census for a very long time.
Sure. Yeah. And I know something, that you do take this really like open approach. You have this way, been working with you for a long time, and you have this way of, you don't carry this like grudge, right? You come with this level of forgiveness for clients. Like, it could be, we had a rupture, right? There was like big feelings, yelling, you were on the other side of a lot of hurt and a lot of uncomfortability and a lot of negative association. Mm-hmm. And yet the next time that person comes into the office, you are the same, right? And when you feel like you need some support with reinforcing those things, like you always ask for it, right? So we always talk about like how you're never alone. There's never this isolative kind of culture within La Ventana, no matter like where you work, right? Mm-hmm. There's always these like, support things in place, because like it takes a village. Right. I know you specifically, the thing that I see in you all the time is like your ability to like forgive, your ability to not hold somebody to their hardest moment that day, to the hardest thing that they struggle with because of their life. You're there to go, yep, that sucked. All right. I'm still here for you, right? Yeah. And how often do they have that in their life where somebody doesn't hold the grudge? Somebody will treat them with unconditional positive regard, regardless of maybe how you were treated in that moment. And like, what a gift that you give them, not by doing something even profound, but just coming from a place of empathy, like Carla was saying, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think one of the things that I learned just kind of growing up with my mom is a lot of times we take out things on the people we feel the safest with. Because I would never talk to my dad the way I talk to my mom. But sometimes my mom and I would get into it to a point where I'm like, I'm yelling and screaming at her. And then an hour later, it's like, okay, let's go get ice cream. Let's go do this thing. But I was safe to let that out with her in a way that I couldn't with my dad. And so I try to remember, like, it's not personal. They're feeling safe enough to like let out this big emotion, and then we're gonna move on from it. Yeah. And when I can't have that mentality, then I'm like, Bryce, I need support. Totally. Carla, I need support. Yeah. Whoever's on, I just need a little break, a little reminder, and then I can maneuver from there.
Totally.
Yeah.
What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm thinking of my own experiences where, like, as an MHT, I'm like out on the floor with the clients all the time, and I'm like the one imposing a lot of rules.
Totally.
And usually the rules are around smoke breaks, phones. They love their smokes, and sometimes it's not smoke time, and it's hard to tell them no. And typically when I have to hold these boundaries, like, it's fine most of the time, but there will be clients who will like get very angry. Like, why can't I have it? Like, why can't I have it? I'm like, hey, listen, it's just, these are the rules. Like, I'm here to enforce them. It's nothing personal. Like, if it was up to me, like, I wouldn't care, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not doing this because I dislike you. And if they get angry and stuff, like, you just kind of have to, you know, hold the line, just maintain your own composure. And like you said, kind of, or like you said, Bryce, like kind of have like unconditional positive regard. Like, hey, like, you know, I know you're mad at me because I'm enforcing the rule. I get it. Like,
sure.
And almost all the time, like I come in the next day and it's like, hey, you know, how's it going? Like nothing ever happened.
Totally.
And pretty much 100% of the time, they've been like, hey, like I want to talk about yesterday. I'm really sorry, you know?
Yeah.
So like kind of giving them that space to not only be angry at you, but also to give them like, hey, like no harm, no foul. Like if you want to apologize, that's cool. If you don't, that's also cool. But it also, that gives them the space to be like, you know what, like Josh isn't angry at me still, so I feel safe to apologize.
Yes, exactly.
I think also what's really cool about residential, even though it is super hard and it does take a village, is like if the village follows through, it can really, really manifest some different results, because also a lot of our clients, not even gender specific, but a lot of our clients are just like not used to certain structures, which they could likely benefit from, and most of them do. Structures, schedules, boundaries, it's unheard of, right? And so when you do follow through, first and foremost, also teaching them how to treat you, being able to say like, hey, let's take a break. Let's talk when you're ready. We're not going to speak to each other like this, right? That anger, you yelling, you being disrespectful will not get like a reaction, but it's also not going to get a reward. So I'm not going to give you what it is that you want just because you're yelling and screaming at me. We're still going to have a conversation, and I'm still going to follow through. And that's like modeled all the way through, right? So let's say you're having this conversation with someone that wants their smoke and they're yelling and you're like, hey man, sorry, like I get it, totally frustrating, super sorry, group time, you know, next break, I'll give you your smokes, like, you know, nothing personal. If that were to continue, they would then come over to me and then we'd do the same thing. Hey, this is just the protocol. We've talked about this. It's super frustrating. I get it. So on and so forth. But it invites different conversations.
Than they've
and they
ever had
see it
before.
all the way through. So they're like, whoa. Okay, whereas maybe at home with family, with friends, with whoever, yelling and screaming and doing all these things, gets me what I want. But it also gets me to be pretty lonely. Right? Like I'm not able to really express my emotions besides like all of this fury and rage that I feel. That's really not just fury and rage. And it's no longer working for me. And then they start to model different behaviors and they get the reward or the reaction that they want. And then hopefully that's like behavioral, why can I think of the word? Also conditioning, right? Like you start to see it work and then they're like, oh, hey, shit, something else might work as opposed to this. And it might open new doors for me. And I might make new friends and I might feel better. Like, all of the things, because often what I do see after they have that blow up, shame. They feel so
hopeless,
bad. They're just like, everyone hates me. Why did I do that? They go down that whole, you know, spiral of thoughts that are just very negative mostly. And then the next day when you do come in or when you do see them again and you do act like, hey, what's up? How's it going? They almost expect you not to.
Right. Yes.
They almost come around and they're like, trying to feel it out and how is he gonna act today? How is she gonna act today? And then you don't. They're like, oh, okay, like we're cool. This is cool, you know. So it's awesome to see all the way around.
I always give this like analogy of like it's not about the dishwasher.
Oh yeah,
so like
it's
in
not.
the sense, right, of like. As a therapist, right, you have people come in and they're like, well, I'm in conflict with my wife, and we always argue about the dishwasher, right? And I always go, it's never about the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Right? It's never about the thing that is on the surface, right? So it's not about the smokes. It's not about the rules, right? It's not about you. It's that struggle that comes with struggle, right? Of like not being able to identify, not having coping skills, having really protective factors that radically serve them and no longer do. And so I think as staff, it's like that ability to go, this is just what's on the surface. Like I see that you're in pain, right? I see that this is the only way that you've ever got your needs met. And I am having this responsibility to give you different information, right? And although, you know, your sole responsibility as support staff is not to like provide acute clinical interventions, you still do that in a sense on a daily basis, right? You still give their brains and their nervous systems different information to process. And I think that's what's so helpful. I'm such a proponent. I know Carla is too. You've obviously been working in, residential, same for you for a while. And that's what I think is so special about residential specifically, right? As a therapist who's done multiple levels of care, private practice, and, outpatient, whatever, the thing that I land on in residential is like it's treatment like no other because it is fully integrative. Like you're in it, you're like, where are you ever going to get that experience again? So when highly stigmatized populations, highly stigmatized individuals take that leap and dive in, right? I think that's like what I call the magic, right? Like that's where the magic happens. You see this acute shift in who they are and how they think and how they process. And like, I want you all to know like what a gift like you give them, right? And how meaningful that is, even in those really hard moments, even in that like, God, I feel like all I do is tell people they can't smoke. All I do is tell people you can't have your phone. All I do is tell people you need to go on the outing.
I am not the cool mom today.
I'm not the cool one today, right? But like down the line, I can't tell you how many times we've gotten letters back. We've gotten, the client who graduated 3-4 years ago, and they're like, it was those moments that radically shifted my life. It was when somebody told me no and held that line, when somebody showed me what a boundary was, because I never knew what that was, right? When somebody showed me structure and I realized how much I needed that, right? That structure was not having control over me. It wasn't just telling me what to do, that was that like child that I still have inside me that was like screaming for safety and structure and boundaries. And I get that now, and so I know like Carla and I, when we get those back, cause we'll get them, like I like to send that to the staff, right? I like to send that to you all and go, hey, this was somebody who was here X amount of time ago and you planted these seeds, right? They didn't know it at the time, they were in it, but like they're a whole tree now, right? And you had play in that, right? And it's like this ripple butterfly effect that I think is just so unique to this kind of like treatment.
Yeah. And I think like we've talked about too, like a lot of times it's just wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard.
Totally.
And it just comes out in a way of, thank you for hearing me. Even with AMA sometimes, like there's a level of honesty that I try to have with them of they're like, it's hard. And I'm like, yeah, this shit's hard.
It's super hard.
It sucks. You're doing program all day. You're going to therapy, group therapy, family sessions.
Psychiatry.
Med changes. You've got the whole thing going. And in the grand scheme of things, where a month in it feels like forever, eternity. In the grand scheme of life, you're doing something for you right now. Yeah. So while you're here, it's hard. Let's say it's hard, and let's keep going. Yeah. Because you're almost there. Yeah. And so sometimes they just need us to acknowledge, like, it's hard, and you're in it, and it sucks. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow's another day. Let's try again. Mm-hmm. And I've found that to also like have a really good impact of, even a client we have right now. Thanks. I just wanted you to hear me.
Yeah.
Great.
Has literally said that, right? As
so many times.
I just wanted to be heard. I just needed to get it out, right? Because again, it's been like shut down and shut down and shut down.
And big emotions and overwhelm. Yeah. And then I just wanted to be heard. Yeah. Thank you for hearing me. That was it. Right. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
Uncomplicated.
It's a human moment. Yeah. I think like a good place to end is like, your advice, right? As like seasoned staff, as, to people with like a lot of passion. I think, we've really seen that here today of what's your advice to people who are like listening to this, people who are exploring what it is to get into the mental health field, right? As somebody who like Googled mental health podcasts, right? To like figure out like what is this? You didn't know what residential was, right?
Yeah.
So what would you tell other people who are getting into this field? Words of advice, words of wisdom, or just like things to have on their radar, kind of entering into the field in supportive entry level ways, right? If not in school.
Also, if I could add, for those that will join us or have joined us or will join residential, that we're not prepared to be in residential. Like you needed a job, you started a job and you're like, whoa, okay, here I am. You know, you either love it or you don't love it too much. What would you say, kind of coming from your perspective too?
Yeah.
Of not knowing that what residential was.
I think one of the things I would say is, like, I don't know how you can learn this, but you can try to not take it personally.
Yeah.
Like you said, Bryce, it's not about the dishwasher. Same way, it's not about you. So when they come in and they're angry, like, don't like take that to heart. Like, oh, I did something wrong. Like maybe you can. I could have done something better, but you're not completely 100% in the wrong. It's a bi-directional relationship.
Yeah.
So just try your best to not take it home, and also try your best not to be the cool mom where you're like,
thank you.
I don't want
love
to.
That.
I don't want to I don't want this person to be mad at me because I know they get mad. So I'm gonna let them get away with this thing.
Yes.
For a million reasons. As like a coworker, if you did that and I tried to enforce the rules, they're gonna get extra mad at me for doing my job.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So
That is such a good point.
in a show of solidarity, do not do that to your fellow coworkers. Yeah.
Also, just know the clients will throw you under the bus so fast.
We find out every single time.
They'll be like, oh, well, Allison let me do this last time. Josh, why aren't you letting me do it now?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
it's just,
Also-
it makes it difficult for other.
It shows them like, hey, with all of the love and respect in the world, we're not friends. Like, I'm here professionally to support you and guide you and give you a different type of care with firmness, right? And so it really draws that line and that boundary.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes shocking to clients.
Yeah.
'Cause, like sometimes, especially early on, if I'm like, hey, like, how's it going? I'm trying to interact with them, trying to like get to know them.
Build rapport.
And trust
And
and then they're like,
connection.
oh, Josh is really cool. Like, and I was like, hey, Josh, can I get my smokes like 30 minutes early? It's like, no, sorry. Like, it's like, you got 30 more minutes. And they're like, it's shocking to them because they're like, well, there's this guy that like, we get along and he's not letting me just get what I want. Like, and I don't know what to do with that. Maybe you guys can answer like how that might affect them or change their behavior. But
it's just it's a different relationship, right? It's going, you guys, and I've always said this, right? Of like, you guys get this unique role in their life of you are in a different position of power, like as therapists, right? We hold a lot of power. We have a lot of power in that relationship. It's a different relationship, right? As support staff, it's not that, but you are also very responsible, right? And so it's a different type of relationship, and it's expanding their knowledge of interpersonal in the clinical world, right? What's called like interpersonal effectiveness, right? How I relate to people, knowing that I cannot treat everybody like I treat my mom. I cannot treat everybody like I treat my ex-girlfriend. I cannot treat everybody like I treat my kid. I have to have these skills of differentiation and going, yeah, Josh is like that coworker that you're going to have, right? That seasoned coworker who's not going to do those kind of like maladaptive things, right? That's going to like cause self like mutual destruction, right? Like Allison is somebody that I go to for advice and wisdom who's in a position of responsibility and power in this relationship with me, but I cannot expect her to be my parent, right? I cannot expect her to hold my trauma like my therapist does, right? So that's what it's really teaching them, and you guys own that wholeheartedly.
I think to touch on that too is I think people sometimes, clients a lot of times associate boundaries with
rejection
with
or
no,
I don't like you,
or I don't like you. And when I train, I try to really just instill you can be kind and have boundaries. You can have empathy and hold boundaries. I don't have to be aggressive. I can be assertive when I need to be, but I can be kind. And a lot of my boundaries I learned from Carla at Rancho, like, Carla, none of them want to go. They're all saying no. And with that, I was able to learn to maneuver that, but with kindness. I don't have to raise my voice. I don't have to yell. And I think that's what they expect when we're holding a boundary.
I think also, one thing just like circle back on is like not coming into this job like preconceived notions, right? I know that's something that, when somebody new comes on shift, when somebody, shows up at the program for the first time, I know my staff, you all are just like, leave the opinions at the door, right?
Yeah.
Like get a new experience. Whatever you think was coming in is largely informed by stigma in society. All of us have a bias, right? And so I think it's just like really promoting that idea of just walking open.
Yeah.
Walk in, recognizing that we all have bias and stigma, really intentionally leave that at the door and walk in and see what happens, because you're going to learn a lot too, and you're going to get a whole experience yourself and like be open to that.
Yeah, for sure. And whether it's the women's house, men's house, emergencies happen, things out of the blue that we could never prepare for might happen, and you're like, where did that even come from? How did that happen? I've had that experience. Bryce knows well. And I would still, I took my little break. I took a couple days, and then I'm back. I love working in men's mental health. Even having some random like experiences doesn't stop me from wanting to continue that. So I think that like fear-based stigma is what needs to be left at the door, and just know like emergencies happen in women's and kids
everywhere
and the world, by the way,
and the world out in the real world. So just keeping that mindset like open, because I still just, like I said, I float to all the houses. There's just something about men's mental health that I love, and I love being LG being my station house.
That was cool. Well, thank you both so much for breaking the ground on the podcast. Keep doing the amazing work. We're so grateful for you, and just know that you have such an impact, and we're just so grateful to have amazing staff. Something that Steve, our owner, always talks about, who's on the podcast with Carla previously, talks about how like I opened it and they came. Right? Like they just come, right? The people, the good people who do the good work, it's a calling, right? So just, we see that, and we're just super grateful for it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Together we're breaking the stigma around men's mental health, one conversation at a time. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it.